What's good, party people? This is According to Woods, and I have the honor and privilege of talking to a pupil, a champion out of Mercenary Combat Academy in the Tri Cities. She's the one, the only, Ali Pellegrini. Ali, what's going on?
Hey, how's it going?
Good. Actually, it's a bit sunny. I'm out here in Southern California, undisclosed location, so it's a bit sunny. So if there's a glare, I apologize in advance. That's it.
No worries. Must be nice. It's not so nice
It
over
is.
here in Tri Cities.
Okay, so what is the weather like?
Right now it's not too bad. It's pretty cold, but it's dry out here. I'm from Portland, so I'm used to it being humid and rainy all the time. But when I moved out here, it was just culture shock. It's dry and it gets really cold in the winter and it gets really hot in the summer.
That's kind of wild, right? Because you, we were kind of messaging, to set this whole thing up, and shout out to your coaches, crew Tony Solis, as well as Kelly Skittles, Clayton Solis, who are absolutely wonderful friends of the pod. But you were in training, so you didn't get a lot of the messages and what have you. For me, I'm not fond of the cold, right? So if I had cold and then I also had to train, that's I'm done. So how do you find the motivation with all of that going on in the atmosphere to still have the mental tact to go and train?
Well, yeah, like during the winter, all I want to do is just like stay inside and get all cozy and just do nothing. But at the same time, if I do that all the time, I go crazy. So my motivation is like if I don't train all the time, I just don't feel like myself and I don't feel as good. So being consistent and training all the time has never really been a problem for me. I'm pretty much always in the gym, and that's kind of how I stay in my element.
I love it. It is your element, which we kind of buried the lead and we kind of talked off air. But how did you get into the sometimes wild and wacky world of combat sports?
Well, as since I was as far as I can remember, really, I always was interested in boxing. I don't really know why. I just was super interested in it. But as a kid, I never really did too many sports or anything like that. Looking back now, I wish my parents would have put me in boxing because if I would have started younger, I would be much further along than I am now. But that's all right. We're making up for it now. But yeah, I always had an interest in boxing, and I didn't gain the courage to walk into a kickboxing gym until I was about 17 or 18. But as soon as I did, I just completely fell in love with it and became obsessed with it. And there were some bumps in the road, but pretty much since then, I have not stopped training. So.
That is amazing. And hindsight 2020, right? Because I often wonder, right? Like I moved around a lot as a kid, so never really got to go and play conventional sports. But if I had done it, I probably wouldn't be as intensely following what I'm
Yep.
doing now, right? So it's here nor there, right? And your path is exactly that. It's your path, right? And it's unique to you. So I'm glad you found your way. And the crew Tony Solis in the chat says Ali Potato Pellegrini, and I want some context because in the pro wrestling world, a potato is when you hit somebody hard way. So is that what crew Tony is alluding to?
No, so everybody in our gym had a nick training here. I think I had been here for about maybe 6 months, and we had another coach who was trying to come up with a fight name for me because I didn't have a fight name. And I don't know, just for whatever reason, the way my name is, it's kind of hard to find something that like flows together. Um, so like we ended up coming up just for now as an amateur, we're gonna stick with All In as my fight name. But when they were trying to come up with something that starts with a P so that it goes with my last name, one of our other coaches had found some Italian word that sounded like potato, and ever since then, my head coach Tony Solis, he has not stopped calling me potato, and now everybody in the gym calls me potato, and so that's just my name now, I guess.
So, and again, in front of the show, Dakota Rhodes, your teammate. Hey, that's
Yep.
potato. That's Here you go. Well, do you like fancy water?
uh, no, no.
Okay, so I guess Ali Pellegrini is off the table. Yeah.
Probably, but yeah, I get a lot of references to that all the time.
I'm sorry. I'm sorry to bring it up now. I was like, there's a
No.
little bit of like, when you smart, it's like, like, oh, we're go 40, but really it's 70, right?
Yep.
And that tinge, like glare in your eye, I was like, oops, my bad.
No, you're good. You're good.
Again, shout out to Clayton and the wonderful photographer of the YouTube card that I posted for this whole soiree. Says potato with a potato emoji. That's like potato squared, right?
Yeah. Yep. Pretty much.
Ooh, and Howie Atherton says BKFC is is waiting.
Yeah. Yeah. I've had a few different, I don't know, promoters or people reach out to me about BKFC throughout the years, especially as I've gotten more more recognition. They've reached out to me a few times, but I don't think that's something I'm interested quite yet. But maybe in the future. Probably not though.
Yeah, I mean it's polarizing, right? Because a lot of people will look at like the cuts that happen because obviously bare knuckle they're a lot more prone to cuts, and if you do it too early in your career, you risk you risk the scenario where you have so much scar tissue that you bleed easy, and to get cleared by the state athletic commission, that's a rough one. So literally, and there are guys and girls that they've pretty much made the transition. Hey, if I'm a bare knuckle fighter, that is it. That's what I am.
Yeah. Yeah, I definitely have a lot of respect for the sport. I've definitely watched some of it. I have some friends that fight in BKFC, and I have a lot of respect for it. It's not just like a circus. It's definitely there's technique and there's a lot of heart involved. But yeah, for me, I don't want to ruin my face. I don't want to have to because MMA is what I want to do, and like I see all these guys with scar tissue and they get punched one time and then they just have to end the fight because their cuts are so bad. It's brutal and it takes a lot of heart, but for me, it's just not my thing.
So you're saying left way. Left way is where you're going next, yeah?
No thanks.
I thought I'd ask. I thought I'd
Brutal.
ask. Um, so again, to spin it back a little bit, right? So you're this, kind of. I mean, at 18, right? We're all trying to figure out our way in life and where we fit, in or out of our parents' auspices and what have you, right? And you are like, I, 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 I see this thing on TV. I know, I've seen boxing, right? So, like, when do you enter a gym? At what point of your kind of you're you're out of the cocoon? Does that happen?
Well, shit. I grew up. I had a crazy like my teen years were crazy. So I had like a pretty normal life growing up. But from the ages of 12 to about 20, 21, it was pretty bad. I was heavily involved in drinking and partying and all that stuff. Eventually, it progressed to the point where I was actually in and out of rehab for the majority of my adolescent life. Not a lot of people know that. I don't talk about it very much, mostly because right now I'm up and coming amateur, and I am planning on making it to the UFC. And so, as of right now, I don't have a big platform. But when I do, I plan to use that platform to help other people that are struggling. However, I'm just not there yet, so I tend to not talk about it very much. But yeah, I struggled for a very long time in and out of rehab, hospitals, jail. And by the time I was 18, I think I had hit like kind of I kind of started to slow down. I think I had gotten clean, kind of got my shit together, and decided it was time to start training because I didn't know where I was going. I didn't know what to do. Like my life, I was miserable. And that was like I would sit there, by myself at the worst times of my life. And the only thing that would get me through that was I would pull out my phone and I would watch UFC videos because like it was the only thing to take my mind off of what was going on in my life. And by the time I got through like that really really bad part of my life, I knew that like I had to do something or I was just gonna go back to it. And that was the something that pretty much saved my life. So yeah, I got into that gym 18. I started training and it just changed everything for me. And obviously I didn't just start training and then everything was better. I struggled for a long time, and I did hop in and out of the gym for a while, but when I finally committed to it, got my first fight, things got better. I just eventually decided that I was going to commit everything to this and spend every day training until I get where I'm trying to go, which is the UFC. And yeah, that's pretty much it.
I absolutely love it, and I'm a pretty ardent believer in whatever platform you have is exactly that, because there's somebody, and this is in total disclosure. One of the reasons why I do this is because you just never know what somebody's going through, right? A lot of people, in their weight loss journey, will put their, like a picture as motivation of a fighter in the midst of a weight cut and think that is the body positivity that they need to get them going, not knowing that that person is an inch away from death. They've basically rid themselves of all the liquid in their body just so they can make weight for a couple hours, only to rehydrate again and not fight at the weight that they agreed upon. That's another story for another day. But still, and people, unknowingly will develop stuff like eating disorders and what have you, because they're trying to essentially chase what they feel is perfection, right? So like the fact that you share that, I am super super honored. But again, like that is your truth to be self-evident. Just like like just like you displayed your belts that we've won, that you display your record, that was also your record. That's the skill set that, in terms of motivation, that has carried you to where you are today. And man, I mean, proud of you, dude. Like that's some heavy ish that you went through and you came out of.
Thank you. I appreciate that.
Yeah. I've got a little bit of humble pie from Crew Tony. Stop chewing gum.
He hates it when I chew gum. It's not ladylike.
Yeah. And Jason Castillo is like, gum during the interview. You gotta love it. Yeah, big things in the works also for Ali coming soon. So again, uh, her social media, her Instagram is linked in the bio. So wherever you're watching this, you can go ahead and follow her and her quest to UFC glory. Yeah, and I guess an appropriate nickname. I feel like that's right.
Yeah, if you guys have any ideas, feel free to comment. We're open to ideas.
Yes, there you go. There you go. So I mean, when do you get that the bug, right? Because like training one thing or whatever, but like this is life for me. Did somebody see you training at a gym that you're at and go like, okay, yeah, 6 weeks we're gonna get you ready for a fight. That happens, right? But what was it where you finally was like, this is it? All of the pent up energy, all the things that I felt like I've been wronged. Well, this is my right. This is my chance to kind of levy things in my favor. When did you get the bug?
Well, I trained at Team Quest in Portland, Oregon. That's where I started, and I so they had they had a couple coaches. I was mostly just doing kickboxing when I started. I was not a natural grappler at all. That took years for me to get to where I'm at with the grappling. So I mostly just did kickboxing. And one of the coaches at Team Quest, his name was Jimbo. He was pretty much one of the only coaches there that would put in that extra time with me, and I felt comfortable around him. I trusted him as a coach, and he believed in me. I feel he was the first person to believe in me, and he got me my first fight, which did not go so well, but it's fine. It was a fight. I wanted to fight. Um, but yeah, he was the first person to really believe in me. So that's how I got my first fight, and that's how I really got going with actual fighting and not just training. But then I moved out here to Tri-Cities after my mom passed, and because things got really bad after that. So I moved out here and I started training at Mercenary, which, funny story, I started training at this gym, Mercenary. So I lost my first fight. The girl that knocked me out was my coach's fighter, Tony, and she doesn't train there anymore. Now I train there. So yeah, small world, but I just felt like this was where I needed to be, at Mercenary here in Tri-Cities. Portland just wasn't going well for me anymore. There's nothing left there for me. And I felt at home here training, and I felt, accepted. And I felt like, more importantly than all of that, like this gym, I could see that they worked very hard. There was no nonsense, no drama, just hard work, training, getting better, and fighting. And that's all I wanted. And so I eventually just decided to move up here. And from that point on, it's been Tony and Kelly that have been like family to me, and my teammates. They have accepted me here. They've helped me, build a life out here, and they've really gotten me to where I'm at. I was not very good when I got here. It's been a few years now since that I've been here, and I was not very good. So all of the progress that I've made over the past few years, that's thanks to Kelly and Tony. So, yeah.
That's amazing. And again, my condolences to you of the passing of your mom. It's been a couple of years, but it never gets easier. I myself, my dad passed away, massive heart attack, Christmas morning of 2010, and then my mom, 3 years later, December 4th, 2013, of a brain aneurysm. So it never gets easy. And I mean, we're approaching the holidays now, so it's icky. So again, to find the strength to talk about it, and I mean, realistically, you are your mom's legacy, and I feel like you're doing it well.
Yeah. Thank you. I appreciate that.
Yeah. And Jason says potatoes great. Look no further. Potatoes your nickname. Beck says I'll have Popeye Pellegrini. That could be it. Uh, Tony Solis says amazing Ali Pellegrini.
Yeah.
That
I don't know.
okay.
I'm like waiting
Okay.
for that one that's like perfect, and so far none of those really jump out at me, you know?
Well, Delhi's echoing the sentiments. Yes, amazing Ali Pellegrini. And I mean, to hear that from two people who you consider family, that's got to be cool.
Yeah. They are the most supportive people, and not in like a fake way. Like they don't sugarcoat things or anything like that. They're great coaches. They're straight to the point, and they've always been there to support me and help me reach my goals. So I really appreciate you guys.
Uh, as do I. I echo those sentiments. They are amazing. And Howie says you should come to High's Fight in SLC. I feel like that's Salt Lake City because it's a great place to meet UFC contacts with those people that can help you get there.
Yeah, I'd love to go to a BKFC fight. Just I'm just so busy training all the time. So I never
Yep.
travel as much as I'd
There you
like
go.
to.
It happens. It happens, right? And Jason says, yeah, Kelly Skittles Clayton is a great fighter in her own right. I feel like I know this. I feel like I know this. Uh, I mean, uh, the last time she was on this very podcast, she was talking about her fight for LFA, where she was basically the underdog. She was brought in, so they thought, might have been a tin cap. And then, gosh, I feel like it was, God, Militech. Pat Militech was like, saw Tony and was like, oh no, like
Yeah.
Kelly's the real deal, And I mean, a valiant performance that she made in that fight, and so many after. Shout out to Kelly.
Yeah, that was an awesome fight. Her whole career has been awesome so far. She's been a
Yeah.
huge role model for me, definitely.
So I feel like, I mean, would you take the moniker of Skittles if Kelly bestowed it on you? Ali Skittles Pellegrini.
It doesn't sound right. I've got some other names in the works. So I want it to be the assassin, but that's literally my coach's name, so I can't steal it because that would go well with my first name. but I can't steal his name. But I'm brainstorming because I want to. If I am gonna change my fight name, it's got to be like as I go pro or before I go pro, obviously. Um, so I'm not taking the decision lightly. I didn't want a fight name at all, but they made me.
So you can have it. That's what
Yeah,
he said.
he says that, but then I'm gonna feel like I'm stealing it.
Okay, all right. I mean, I love it. I love it. The respect there, and again, the respect is earned. And the fact that you've earned his respect to bestow it on you. I'm just saying, Assassin has a nice ring to it. I'm thinking about fight shirts that could come out of it. Oh man, yeah, bingo. There we go.
Yeah, they just want me to have a new name. They don't like. Nobody likes All In. So
All right. Okay, so I mean, right now, do you have like the top three that you've kind of been conjuring up?
well, with all the pressure, I'm like considering potato, but I just like I take fighting very seriously. I mean, I take it seriously. I also have fun with it, but like I do take it very seriously. So I feel like if I have a name like potato, that doesn't align with like my values. But at the same time, I do have fun with this sport. Like my main goal in every fight is to have fun, aside from win and execute and all that. But I don't know. It just seems a little bit too light. Um, but yeah, the assassin is still on the table. I don't like that. It wouldn't feel original. Um, and then of course there's all in. Just keeping that name is an option. Um, but I just gotta do some like brainstorming. I even used AI to come up with names for me, and that didn't go very well. So we'll see.
Well, why don't you just become Ali AI Pellegrini?
Yeah, I don't know about that one.
I threw it out there. Just say it. Um, and you were talking about like unoriginal nicknames. I kind of feel not a lot of people talk about it, right? Because like there could only be so many beasts. There could only be so many monsters, right? There's what is your take on it? I mean, now that we've kind of broached the subject.
What?
Oh, about having an unoriginal nickname.
Well, so I always like to be original in everything. Like I don't like feeling like you know I just don't. I like being myself. So honestly, that being said, I like not having a nickname, just Ali Pellegrini. A lot of fighters do that. My favorite fighter, Nate Diaz, he doesn't have a nickname, so that's kind of what I wanted to do. But I understand, like, there's a lot of benefits to having it. It's fun. There's, for marketing, stands out. So I feel, and obviously my team wants me to have a nickname too. So I don't know. I would like it if I could just go by my name, but we'll see.
So, a couple things entered the chat as you were speaking. JC Castillo said Ali the Sniper Pellegrini. That it's not
It's
bad.
similar to Assassin, I guess.
Yeah, yeah. And speaking of it, Crew Tony says Muay Thai tradition, fighters take their coach's name. That's
Well,
facts.
there we go. Then I guess it's gonna be the Assassin, maybe.
Just saying. I'm just saying. We're feeling things out. Uh, Up to this point, right? And you're a tenured young veteran in your combat sports career. What has been your favorite moment to date?
As far as fighting,
Yeah, or the process, any of it.
well, so my first fight, I had been training for about 9 months, and I got knocked out in the second round. Um, and that was rough because I've always been super tough, and like fighting does not scare me at all. I know a lot of people are like they get scared about it. It's never been the kind of thing that scared me. I always was more attracted to it. But after getting knocked out in my very first fight ever, that was, I mean, honestly, I want to say that was the most important moment in my amateur career. Obviously not my favorite moment, but so that was the most important one. But it was after that, winning that second fight, because when you've only been training for less than a year and you get knocked out in your first fight, that's enough to make a lot of people quit. And I'm not a quitter, but I definitely, and I don't doubt myself either, but I definitely questioned myself a lot. So I didn't know if this was the sport for me, if I should just quit now. There was a whole process of coming back from that knockout. And then winning that second fight, that was kind of the reassurance that I needed. And I didn't just win the second fight. I busted my ass for that second fight and then won. And that kind of taught me about fighting and how it works. And so I want to say, the most important one was getting knocked out. The best one was winning that second fight.
It's not so much what you learn in wins, right? That's what I'm coming to find out in life, right? It's not just life, but it's not just fight. It's life as well, right? When you win, right, you can kind of gloss over the things that you're deficient in, right? But a loss is glaring, right? It's the thing that haunts you, right? The things the millimeters that you could have come from, if you just did it this way, or whatever, or your cardio was better, any of those things, right? And you agonize and you antagonize yourself, right? So, to have that happen, that's your worst fear, right? And getting knocked out, especially convincing your family, hey, I'm going to do this. They might have their apprehensions, your friends, everything like that, right? And then that happens. That's somebody's worst fear. Well, you got that out of the way literally first fight. So it's only up from there, right?
Yep. Yeah, I wouldn't change it. I'm very glad it happened because since then I've been on a win streak. I haven't lost any fights since then. And I don't I'm not cocky. I try to stay humble and I don't underestimate my opponents. I go into every fight with that mindset that it's going to be as hard as that first fight. And I really think that that's a huge part of the reason why, not just why I've won all my fights, but why I have the heart and grit that I do have, and the knowledge of what can really happen in a fight. Because I think a lot of people that aren't fighters think that it's just you go in there and you just bang it out and that's it. But no, there's a lot more to it. Skilled martial artists can knock you out in a heartbeat, and I did not take that seriously. So it was a harsh way to learn, but it taught me what I needed to know. So.
Exactly. And in terms of nicknames, Jason Skittles says maybe, but also Shannon Knapp, Invicta FC. Here's your next superstar. There we go. There we go. Absolutely. And you're welcome. Just for everything. You're welcome. I feel like it's great. It's so modest, that one there.
Yeah, he definitely is.
I taught you your first lesson. Giving more context, just in case you figured out. I feel like there's a story.
Oh, there is. Yeah. So
What's the story?
Yeah. So the girl. So okay. So I was training. I had been training, actually training for 9 months, everyday training, and I told my coach that I wanted to fight. That was my coach over at Team Quest, Jimbo. So I told him I wanted to fight. We got a fight, and then that fight got canceled. And they said, you can either not fight or you could fight this girl who's really good and you could fight her for the title in my very first fight. And I was like, yeah, let's do it. And my coach warned me. He was like, you don't have a very good chance of winning this fight. And I'm going to let you make that decision. But I'm going to tell you that, you don't have a good chance of winning this fight. And I said, I don't care. Let's do it. And at that point, I was just, for one, I was younger, but I don't know. I've always been kind of a hothead and don't think things through. So I just said, let's do it. And I'm surprised I didn't get knocked out in the first round. But anyway, so that was Tony's fighter, and it was Tony's show, which, by the way, there's a show coming up, Tri-Cities, December 30th. He's putting on another kickboxing show. It's going to be great. Anyway, so that was my first show, and that was Tony's show. He was cornering against me, and she knocked me out in the second round. And that was the first time I ever met Tony. But he's my coach now. So yeah, that's the backstory there.
And now he's essentially taught you the same lessons he taught your opponent the weeks leading up to that fight, is how to knock people out.
Yep, pretty much.
Yep. And I mean, to that extent, Jason says Tony always teaching, even if he isn't your coach.
Yep, one
Lessons.
way or another.
So, I mean, obviously, right? You kind of stated your intention to go to the UFC. I mean, is it UFC or bus? Are you entertaining? Again, I feel like speaking your truth out into the universe, right? And then we can kind of look back at this and like, here's where you said it, and look at you now, right? So, with that all being said, I mean, are you looking at other options like one championship, Bellator, PFL, or is it just UFC or best?
Um, of course, so I want to make it to the UFC. I believe that the UFC is like, you know, I think it's the best promotion. It's like the NFL for those of you that don't watch fighting. It's for me, it's the best stage to go out there and perform against the best fighters in the world, and that's for me. That's just like the best thing I could do. So yeah, that's what I want to do. But of course, I love fighting, and I'll take any opportunity I can get. But I'm not just gonna settle for I'm gonna do my absolute best to make it to the UFC with everything in my power. But of course, I would love the opportunity to compete in Bellator, One, Invicta, any of those. I would love that. So, but the UFC is my main goal.
I love it absolutely. It's just again, stating your I intention and you set your phasers to stop. Right, you just go for broke, right? And all of your training, all of the lessons, the small ones, the big ones that you're learning along the way, right? All of those kind of meet at that moment, right? It's you know, preparation meets opportunity, right? And when that time comes and that contract comes down the pipeline, you're gonna be like, yep, this is exactly it, and not just that, because just making it to the UFC, like I've known fighters and won't name names or what have you, that their intention is just to make it to the UFC, right? And it doesn't go so well, right? And it might be an ego thing, it might be an experience thing. There's a multitude of different reasons why, right? So, I mean, is it just to make it to the UFC, or do you want to be champion?
Mm-hmm. Oh, of course, I want to be the UFC champion. But and like I said, I love fighting to my core. It's just something that has always been inside of me. I love fighting. So if that opportunity never comes, which I believe it's going to come at some point, because I'm going to keep working my ass off until it does. But if for whatever reason that opportunity never came, I would be happy to fight in any promotion. I'll fight as long as I can fight. And the goal is always to get better. So, if I keep getting better, I keep doing what I'm doing, I have no doubt that I'll make it to the UFC. But of course, I'll keep fighting until I die. Pretty much.
I love it, absolutely love it. Now, um, you're much. I mean, you kind of started your combat sports infancy in striking, right? So, how did you take to the ground game?
So my ideology when I got into kickboxing and boxing, because at that point MMA, it was like in the era where Conor McGregor was at the top, and like there's a whole bunch of hype around it, and like so that's when I really got interested in MMA over boxing. And I had just started training kickboxing and stuff. So my ideology was that you don't like I could just make it like I could be a fighter and not learn any ground game, because I wasn't interested in like wrestling or grappling at all, just kickboxing. So I thought before I knew anything about fighting and training, like that I would be able to do all this without learning grappling, because that's how ridiculous I was. But I learned pretty quick that's not how it works. As soon as I started doing like MMA practices and stuff, and I would just get held down and like beat up and just not be able to get out from mount, and that's when I learned that like it was gonna take a lot longer than I thought, and it was gonna be a lot harder than I thought. And so I started grappling about a year after I started striking, and it just did not go well. Well, for one, I had just gotten out of that really bad phase of my life, so I don't think I'd fully recovered from that. So learning how to do grappling techniques and stuff like that was damn near impossible for me. So it literally took me like a year to learn an armbar. That's how bad it was. So I'm not a natural grappler. I'm not a natural athlete. Everything that I've learned how to do was just so many like years of repetition. And after about a year of grappling, I fell in love with it. And like now I almost like grappling and striking equally. And it's almost to the point where like my grappling is pretty much as good as my striking. And I really have fallen in love with it. And I just think it's so crazy that I thought that I could fight in the UFC without knowing how to grapple. But yeah, I learned pretty quick that was not going to work out. So I did commit to learning how to grapple, and I'm a blue belt now. So definitely have made a lot of progress.
I love that when you think about it, right? Especially as you get announced, right? If you look at old school, like early days of the UFC, right? They are a Muay Thai fighter. You hear Bruce Buffer, they're a freestyle fighter, what have you. Your
Yep.
fight style is literally hard work and dedication.
Yeah.
Because none of it comes to you naturally. Like, yeah. Hard work, Ali Pellegrini.
We got to make it flow better.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, no, I made it more of a question mark. Hard work? Kind of? Somewhat?
Yeah.
Yeah, no. So I think that's amazing. And of all that, all your attributes, Jason says she was born to be a UFC champion. There you
I love
go.
that. I do feel that way.
Yeah. So we talked a bit about fights, right? And obviously, it is something. Literally, you, your engine is just fight, fight, fight. But on those days, right, where it's cold, it's murky, and you don't want to get up, is there things that you use to motivate yourself? Or is there books that you're reading, movies that you're watching, songs that you're listening to, things that you're eating that kind of they're like, okay, I'm like, let me get my shit together. Let's go.
Yeah, so like I don't have anything particular that I listen to on a daily basis or read on a daily basis, but like if I'm in the gym and I'm going for a long run, I'll just put on like I love David Goggins. He's been like my number one inspirational speaker. So I listen to a lot of David Goggins, and when I was in my struggle that I was going through, I was in rehab and I read his book, and that's actually I kind of forget about that a lot, but that was part of my turning point was reading his book. His book completely changed my life. It's Can't Hurt Me by David Goggins. Literally the best book I've ever read in my life. I always try to make people read it. Nobody ever listens to me, but it's a really good book. It talks about struggle and like it's the kind of book that like if you think your life is shit and then you read that, you completely change your mind. So yeah, that's like my favorite book of all time. But yeah, other than that, I don't really like have podcasts that I listen to or anything like that. I like to listen to motivational stuff, and I like to learn a lot of stuff. So just random stuff. I'm always like learning about science and nutrition and fighting and stuff like that. But nothing in particular. I'll just pull up YouTube and I'll go to playlists of just the most random stuff all the time. I'm always learning new things. So yeah.
I love it. Yeah, with a question mark, hobbies? Because I feel like Tony is alluding to like you have no other hobbies other than this being your life.
It's pretty much that way. Like I try, cause like I do a lot of stuff. Like for one, when I moved out here, I purchased 2 houses and they were both in really bad condition, and I renovated them, and learned how to renovate them myself with the help of a couple of contractor friends. But for the most part, I learned how to do construction, framing, carpentry, plumbing, electrical, all that stuff So that was like that's the majority of what I do outside of here. And like, of course, I love to travel, but I don't travel very much. For one, it's expensive, and I'm training all the time, so I don't have the time. But yeah, I love to travel. I do a lot of construction work. I have two houses, and then I have two dogs. They're Labradoodles. They're both about a year old. So I basically, outside of fighting, when I'm not training, I'm hanging out with my dogs or doing some kind of construction project.
Well, I think I should turn my mic on first off. But I think that's amazing, right? Because um, that's I guess the dirty side of all sports, right? When you make it to a professional level, that a lot of athletes they have the eyes on the prize, right? And you mentioned David Dawkins, right? Incredible human being, right? The tenacity that just resides in him. But like everybody wants to be the best, right? But nobody's really future proofing themselves. There aren't a large contingency of people. I think it was Jesus. I feel like Miles Jury, right? If you've ever seen his YouTube channel, like he invested like his first $50,000, bonus win in real estate, and I think, and not to say that other people haven't, right? Like TJ Dillashaw has like an acai clean juice place, uh, ironically enough. But a lot of people don't talk about that, right? There are fighters that will do things for the ground, right, and whatever. But then when the checks stop coming in, and that's it. So you early on, being kind of choosing to move away from your norm, right? Coming out of your new recovery, right? The death of your mom, right? And then this, like you could have been going into enemy territory, right? By the gal that knocked you out, you're going to hurt him, right? But you use all of that as catalyst for why you are going to be undeniable, and then just again to future proof yourself, invested in houses and you built them up, right? That's some cash flow that will allow you to not have to worry about just working a gig to basically pay for your passion. You future proof yourself, which is amazing.
Thank you. Yeah, it's tough. It is really tough working 8 to 10 hour shifts and then going straight to training. And I did that for a couple years. And like, it's doable. It's totally doable. But I chose not to do that. And I could do that. Like, I could still be doing that. I could, of course, like to use the extra cash, but I'm choosing to spend my free time investing my future. Whether that means I have to struggle financially, I don't care. As long as I can make it by. And I'm caught up on my bills and I have a roof over my head, then I'm going to spend all my time training, because that's, I'm not getting any younger. And so I really do want to put all my energy into getting where I want to go. And I don't want to work my whole life and then die. Like, that sounds miserable. So yeah, I just took a year with that house, and I spent all day working on that house for a year straight, both of these houses. And then I got them done with the idea that once they were done, I could rent them out, get the passive income, and then I could spend all my time training. And after that year, like, it was a shitty year too. It was not easy, but now I do have passive income, and now I am able to train full time. So yeah, I highly recommend, taking a year to set up your life. And then after that year, you can do whatever you want. Like, put some time aside, grind, and then enjoy your life later. But don't waste your whole life working. That sucks.
Jeez. I mean, I think a lot of people within the combat sports world or not, need to hear that. That's
Yeah.
oof, gave me chills a bit. I absolutely, that's amazing. I mean, I don't think there's. I mean, I'm sure we could get better than that, but that by itself, I feel like I think we should get ended here. But with that all being said, obviously there's a lot of people who have attributed to your success thus far. So take as long as you like. Let's get some shout outs out of the way.
Well, of course, I'm going to start with my mom, who's obviously not here anymore. She is the reason why have everything that I have and am the way that I am. So I give all credit to her, and my dad, of course, too. My family has been great. I want to thank my first coach, Jimbo, for even giving me the opportunity to have a life in combat sports, because I don't think I would have if I didn't have somebody that believed in me when I first walked into that gym. Of course, I'm going to thank Tony, my coach, Tony, for never bullshitting me, always telling me what I need to hear and pushing me to my limits pretty much every day. Kelly, for always having my back with anything I need, from weight cutting, photos, anything at all. She's always there. My fiance, Beck, she's been there for everything from weight cuts to just everything. She's got my back. She deals with me when I'm in fight camp and not happy. Yeah. And then lastly, my teammates. I would not be anywhere near where I'm at without them in there every day pushing me. Everyone from like the little guys to the big guys, they all push me. So they're all tough. Everybody in our gym is killers. So I appreciate all you guys. I really couldn't do this without you. So yeah, that's about it.
I absolutely love it, and I mean, shout out to again the Mercenary Combat Academy, and again headed up by none other than Crew Tony Solis, as well as Kelly Skittles Clayton. Which again, if you haven't seen Kelly Skittles Clayton fight, you're doing yourself a disservice. Go ahead, like little any streaming platform, YouTube, Google machine, what have you. You'll be glad you did, 100%.
Yeah.
And last but not least, and I linked it down in the bio, but for anyone that wants to follow your journey into the hallowed octagon of the UFC, where can they find you on the socials?
So my Instagram is Ali _ Pellegrini _ MMA. And then my Facebook is going to be Ali Pellegrini, Ali all in parentheses Pellegrini.
Excellent. And Crew Tony, ever the coach. Sponsors.
Oh yeah, of course. Of course I need to thank my sponsors. I want to thank Women of Combat. They have been so supportive. I met them when I first moved here, and they followed my career all the way up until now and have supported me. So I want to thank Women of Combat. You guys have been amazing. Then they were also my first sponsor. So I really appreciate your support from the beginning. And then, of course, Integrative Chiropractic and Extremities here in Tri-Cities. They have been my chiropractors. They sponsored me also since the beginning and always make sure that I'm good to go before my fights. So thank you to Ice Clinics and Women of Combat. You guys are the best.
Yeah, and you're the best. Like, thank you for doing this, and all of you guys that chimed in on the chat, watching this now, or future proofing it. Thank you guys for joining us here at According to Woods. And if you haven't already done so, go ahead and like, share, and subscribe to the According to Woods podcast on Facebook, YouTube, Twitch, and Twitter, or X. Get confused, but you know the thing where you tweet. We're on there too. So again, thank you again, Ali, and you're subscribed to the podcast, aren't you?
Yes, I believe so. I think so.
See,
I'm not the most tech savvy person, but I think I am.
Okay, there you go. I feel like once this is done, she'll get it done. And just like when this is done, you should get it done. So again, subscribe to the According to Woods podcast. If you don't believe me, you don't believe Ali, and I don't know why you wouldn't. Well, here's Pro Wrestler Zeta Zang to help convince you.
Hey, this is Zeta Zang. Make sure you subscribe to According to Woods YouTube.